We are spending the month of May getting into our feelings, as our theme is emotions. Emotions. And why are we talking about emotions? Because we are emotional beings. I bet you're feeling an emotion right now. And our reactions to our emotions determine the course of our lives. And unfortunately, society doesn't do a great job of teaching us about our emotions. We are usually taught that our emotions are subject to judgment and dependent on gender. We're taught our emotions are either good or bad. There's good emotions and then there's bad emotions. And some emotions need to be silenced. Some need to be ignored. Men are discouraged from showing emotion, discouraged from feeling emotion, but also men are discouraged from being stoic. So there's that. And then women are encouraged to show their emotions. It's natural for women to show their emotions, but discouraged from being too sensitive. And everything in between. Okay, it's a very confusing message that we get from society with regards to how we deal with our emotions. And so there's like a lot of different emotions and a lot of different types and a lot of levels and intensities to these emotions. And it's kind of like the title of the talk describes, is like a spice rack. And we can spin that around and find the spice that we are under the effect of, the emotion that is the focus of the moment. And knowing that, we can know how to proceed into that emotion, how to inspect our feelings around that emotion. But just like spices, no emotion is inherently good or bad. They just are. They just exist. So the question is, what emotion is driving me right now? What emotion am I under the effects of? And having this third person view can reveal that all emotions are beneficial and they all have lessons to offer. So in cooking, as we're using our spice analogy, we strive for a balance of flavors. And the same is true of our emotions. We strive for balance in our emotional spectrum. And as we do, we achieve a balance in life. Okay, no one likes these super highs and then the super lows and then the super highs again. We want to have more of an even keel and learning lessons along the way. It's hard when you're in the grips of fear to learn a lesson about fear because our minds are in survival mode. We're not trying to learn lessons when we're afraid. We're not trying to learn anything. We just want the fear to go away. And so we want to treat the conditions that have brought about the fear. We want to get rid of that. But there's rich learning, rich, deep emotional learning there that we could be using to enhance our lives. So our emotions require balance so that we don't spiral downward into a dark abyss or become oversaturated in bliss that it doesn't include the reality of the human experience. And you might be thinking, too happy? How could I be too happy? I want to be happy all the time. Well, life isn't just about the happy. We can live joyful lives. We can live joyously, but that sense of happy may not always be there. Here's an example. And this is one I take from my childhood, man. Outside, wearing shorts and a tank top, having fun. Springtime, very much like today. And then it starts to get cold. But me, I'm having fun. I don't want to change anything. I don't want to go inside and change my clothes and wear something more appropriate for the cold. And no, I'm going to stay outside. I'm going to stay with the happy. And all the while, it's getting colder and colder and colder. I'm shivering. Okay. And the nature is dictating that I change something, that I do something, but I'm ignoring all that. I'm ignoring the elements. I'm ignoring the shivering. I'm ignoring this uncomfortable feeling because I'm having such a good time and I want to continue having that good time. And so the discomfort is ignored. But the thing is, that discomfort, it wasn't there to keep you from being happy. Okay? It wasn't hiding in some bush waiting for you to be happy and say, oh, I don't want David to be happy. Discomfort. No. It was there to ensure my continued happiness. The discomfort was there to alert me that I needed to put on a coat before I caught a cold. I needed to get warm so that I can continue enjoying myself. That is that is a lesson that we can learn from discomfort. And that's how holding on to happiness, clutching on to happiness, can blind us to other parts of life that we might need to address. So our lives require different responses at different times. And if we're stuck in an emotion, as I said, we can miss what else life is telling us. So this month, we're going to delve into 4 key emotions: fear, happiness, anger, and sadness. And we're going to explore other emotions that cluster together with each one of those main emotions. And together, we want to lean into learning about our emotions for a greater understanding of who we are and how critical they are to our growth, development, and well-being. Rather than fleeing from a difficult emotion, we seek to face it with curiosity and wonderment and look to find our blessings, which we know are abound. We're surrounded by blessings. We're engulfed with blessings. Every moment brings about new blessings and the realization of new blessings. So, are there blessings wrapped up in our fear? Well, there's a blessing to be had. There's blessings to be had throughout our entire experience as a human being. So as we explore our emotions and feelings, we're also going to talk about the mental equivalent. Oh my goodness, my laptop is about to die. I'm going to run over here and plug it in real quick, and I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. And I'm back. Thank you, Billy, for that plug-in, for those plug-in tunes. Oh my word! I just got that message on the screen, and that's just something that had to be taken care of. So thank you for your patience. Now, where was I? Mental equivalence. Yes, as we explore our emotions and feelings, we're also going to focus on mental equivalence and the mental equivalent to gain a different perspective. So what is mental equivalent? Well, Emmett Fox wrote a great book about this, and it's really a concept that he has developed. And you remember earlier in the service how I said that thoughts are things. Well, that is the concept that we're dealing with here. A mental equivalent is the concept that for every condition, there is a corresponding thought. For every thing in the universe, there is a thought that corresponds with its creation. Everything. So we usually think of thoughts following things. Commonly, we think of thoughts following things. Something happens, something appears, and we think about it, right? Something happens, and we think about it. So we can actually flip this to think about something and then having that appear. Rather than having the thing appear and then we think and then the thing appears. That's what we mean by thoughts are things. So it's our task to find the mental equivalent of what we want. So if you think the correct mental equivalent, the thing that you're thinking about has no choice but to appear. It must appear. So let's talk about this and how it relates to fear. And here's the example. Faith is the mental equivalent of fear at the opposite side of the spectrum. So say that we don't want to experience fear, we want to experience the opposite of fear, then faith is our mental equivalent that we need to latch onto. And with the development of faith, you get trust, you get knowing, focus, confidence, courage, all the things that come from having faith. Faith helps us push through the fear. Susan Jeffers coined the phrase, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it reminds us that having faith doesn't necessarily mean that there is an absence of fear. Faith empowers action that is greater than the inaction that fear empowers. If we're fearful, we don't move. We don't move, we don't progress, we freeze. And if we have faith, we can shake free of that and move forward anyway. And over time, as we get better and better and stronger in our faith, the effect of fear diminishes and the effect of faith increases. Even as new fears arise, they still meet a rock solid faith and everything that faith has with it. That just continues to grow. So this is the work, dissolving the effect of fear. Now, it is not the elimination of fear. We avoid praying it away, which is like kind of what we call a new thought, a spiritual bypass. It's just pretending as though fear doesn't exist. Because whatever it is, although it may leave for a moment, it's going to come back. That fear is going to return unless it is dealt with. And we deal with it by applying our spiritual practice to work through it, to breathe through it, to find a way to face the scary monsters that we may find aren't so scary at all. We may even realize a misconception or a false narrative trying to appear real. That's how fear works. We may realize that we're trying to assign some meaning to something erroneously. I have been guilty about that. The truth may actually be presenting itself as we delve more into our emotion, but we can only do this by looking fear straight in the eye, not running from it, not lying to ourselves about it. So a great place to see fear and faith at work is on an airplane, if you're flying. And if you've ever flown, then you have seen the pantheon of different kinds of flyers. There is the experienced flyer, knows what's going on, knows all the little bumps and sounds, and knows everything about what he's about to experience. And there is the inexperienced flyer. That is a person that might not have the same knowledge as the experienced flyer. That's a person that doesn't know anything about what they're about to experience or feel. And a lot of times, the new flyer is someone who's dealing with fear and dealing with it usually in a way that is quite uncomfortable. And I have been new. I have taken my first flight before, so I know how uncomfortable that is. And it can be worse depending on what you think you know about flying and depending on what you've heard, what your friends have told you and all that. So it can be terrible. And so, so you take off. The whole experience of taking off is something new. You've got the experienced flyer, like me. I'm reading my newspaper and I'm like, whatever. And we're taking off and I'm just reading and feeling good because I know that I'm not freaked out about what is happening right now. The new flyer that might be sitting next to me is got a death grip on the seat. They're very anxious, very tense. They're feeling all the feelings that come with fear. Okay, my experience gives me a faith that prepares me for faith. It gives me the courage that I get with faith. It gives me the knowledge. It gives me the confidence that I have with faith. And the new flyer doesn't have any of these things. So all they have is fear. So they prepare to have all of the feelings that fear provides, which fear is basically getting you ready for that thing to happen that you most fear. So these folks are getting ready to crash. They are preparing themselves, their bodies, their adrenaline is increasing, their focus is narrowing, their reason and rationale is kind of slipping away from them as they're sitting there. So you have one situation, a flight. You have two people on completely different ends of the spectrum as far as fear and faith are concerned. But the interesting thing is that if you are that experienced person, your calm emanates from you. It's not just a calm that is within you. It's a calm that spreads out. And the person that is fearful, when I'm afraid, I'm looking for something to hold on to. I'm looking for some emotion, something to help. When you encounter that calm person, that person that is experiencing the exact same thing that you are, but only experiencing it with calm, with ease, with confidence, that calm and ease and confidence spreads. It affects other people. That peace moves over and affects the person that's next to you. I've done it before. I've looked over and I saw, well, that person's pretty calm. Maybe there's nothing to worry about. Maybe I should be calm too. We want to share our peace. And that's a great thing about being emotionally mature and not running from fear. If we run from our fears, we never learn how to deal with our fears. We never learn how to move into our fears. So everything here starts with faith and building that, recognizing God's presence in everything and everywhere, is sitting in that seat. And even if you're an experienced flyer, doesn't believe in God, you still have faith. You have faith in the structural integrity of that plane. You have faith in the knowledge and the abilities of the pilots. You have faith that no matter what happens, everything's going to be okay, and you're going to land and you're going to be fine. Now, the interesting thing here is that both people, the experienced flyer and the inexperienced flyer, are both afraid to crash. Neither one of them wants this to happen. They're both afraid. But the difference is how that fear is responded to. How do we respond? The experienced person responds with faith. Hey, I don't want to crash, but I know all these other things. I believe and trust in all these other things. And so that's good enough for me. I can I can fly with confidence. The inexperienced person doesn't have that faith to rely on. They don't have that knowledge. They don't have that courage. So that is the difference. Now, in our society today, we're tempted to measure. We have to measure everything. How do I measure my growth, my maturity? How do I measure how I'm doing? And look, there's no single standard to use when measuring your emotional growth. You have to use your own standard because we're all coming at this from a different place. So you have to ask yourself some questions if you want to know how you're doing along your emotional path. Do you feel emotionally balanced? Is there less fear? Is there less reaction to fear in your life? Is there more joy? Not just happiness, but a joy that you feel in your heart just from the reality of your existence. Is there more courage? Do you notice when a fearful situation comes up, when you would normally be afraid, do you notice something else happening? A knowing, a knowledge, a faith. Do you see more of that? And what is your reaction to fear overall? Is it denial? Is it running? Or is it introspection? Hey, I'm afraid right now. What is that all about? What am I believing in that is causing this fear? Because no matter what it is that you're believing in, no matter what it is at the root of the fear, God is greater. God is greater. So I have some homework for you today. Pardon me. It should be a very interesting exercise. So I want you to take a few aspects of fear that we talked about today. Doubt, worry, anxiety, unworthiness, whatever the fear is that's within you, pick one fear. And as a topic, go into meditation, go inside and inspect that fear, inspect that belief. What do you believe about that thing that is causing you fear? And journal that. Write it down and allow yourself to be honest and vulnerable. Okay, it's not going to hurt you sitting by yourself and thinking about what you fear. There's no danger there. You're not going to be harmed. So it's okay to let yourself be vulnerable and dig into it and find out more about your fear. Find the lack that you believe in and know the truth that there is no lack in the universe. So let's take that into prayer.